A barge drifts silently along the Thames in 1536, carrying a prisoner who has not yet been judged but already knows his fate. Why does a kingdom need a gate hidden from its own people? Why must punishment arrive unseen? As the iron teeth of Traitor's Gate rise from the water, something becomes clear. This is not just a prison. It is a system designed to erase defiance before it can even be witnessed. And once inside, no one truly leaves unchanged, whether they walk out or not. The prisoner steps ashore and expects darkness, chains, and silence. Instead, he enters something far more unsettling, a functioning city. The outer ward hums with activity. Blacksmiths, hammer iron bakers, prepare bread, and coins are struck at the Royal Mint with rhythmic precision. Life does not stop here. It coexists with confinement. This duality is not accidental, it is architectural strategy. The Tower of London is built in concentric layers, each ring of defense operating independently, ensuring resilience during siege and control during peace. The outer ward alone can sustain hundreds of soldiers, store vast grain reserves, and maintain water access through internal wells. This self-sufficiency reflects a broader Norman philosophy: power must be continuous, not reactive. Economically, the tower was not merely defensive, it was productive. Housing the Royal Mint meant the crown literally manufactured wealth within the same walls that held its enemies. This fusion of military, economic, and penal functions reveals a deeper logic: control every variable currency, food security, and fear. To the prisoner, the contradiction is disorienting. Servants pass him carrying water as if nothing is wrong. Ravens peck at scraps in the courtyard. Somewhere nearby, exotic animals from the royal menagerie pace behind bars. The message is subtle but absolute: the system does not revolve around you. It continues indifferent, efficient, eternal. As he is led deeper inward, the illusion of normalcy dissolves. The White Tower rises above him, immense, pale, and uncompromising. Built by William the Conqueror beginning in 1078, it was never meant to protect London's people. It was built to dominate them. Every element of its construction communicates intent. The walls, 15 feet thick at the base, are made from Kentish ragstone imported deliberate and foreign. The design is stark, almost devoid of decoration, reinforcing Norman authority over a recently conquered Anglo-Saxon population. This is architecture as psychological warfare. Geopolitically, the tower symbolized more than defense. It was a constant reminder of conquest. From nearly every point in medieval London, its silhouette was visible, a looming declaration that rebellion would be answered not with negotiation, but permanence. The absence of large windows, the narrow defensive slits, and the elevated entrances all reinforce a singular idea: this structure is not meant for comfort, only control. Inside, the prisoner begins to understand his position within this system. He is not simply detained, he is being processed by an institution that predates him and will outlast him. The tower does not need to display cruelty openly. Its strength lies in inevitability. For the nobility outside its walls, this was the true function of the tower: not to punish many, but to threaten all. A single imprisonment echoed across court politics, shaping decisions, alliances, and betrayals. The stone did not just hold prisoners, it governed behavior. Inside the inner ward, the machinery of power becomes more abstract, but no less precise. The prisoner is placed into a cell not designed for brutality, but for endurance. There are no instruments of torture here, no spectacle of pain. Instead, there is time measured, controlled, and weaponized. This reflects a deeper economic logic embedded within the Tudor state. Maintaining elaborate systems of torture required labor resources and unpredictability. But the tower operates differently. Its efficiency lies in minimal input and maximum psychological output. Guards, keys, walls, and waiting — this is all the system needs. It converts royal displeasure into submission without excess cost. Beyond the walls, England's economy is shifting. Trade expands through London's ports, merchant classes grow in influence, and the crown increasingly relies on taxation and controlled commerce. Yet this emerging economic dynamism is anchored by a constant, the absolute authority of the monarch. The tower serves as the enforcement mechanism behind that authority. For every noble imprisoned, thousands remain free, but not truly free. They calculate their loyalty carefully, understanding that favor can turn into accusation overnight. This is the true engine of wealth and governance, not just coin or land, but compliance. A courtier negotiating trade privileges, a noble managing estates, even a bishop shaping religious doctrine all operate under the shadow of the tower. It stabilizes the system not through frequent use, but through constant possibility. The prisoner tracing the cold stone with his fingers becomes part of this equation. His existence here reinforces the obedience of those outside. His silence is not empty, it is productive. Morning breaks, and the tower awakens not with dread, but with routine. Bells ring from the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, marking the hour for prayer. Guards smena shifts. Servants sweep courtyards. The scent of fresh bread drifts once again through the air. Life continues even here. For those living within the tower, guards, craftsmen, families, this is not merely a prison. It is a workplace, a community, even a home. Children grow up within these walls, learning trades, attending chapel, and playing in the same courtyards where prisoners await judgment. The coexistence of normal life and looming death creates a uniquely unsettling rhythm. In the streets of London, beyond life mirrors this complexity. Markets bustle with trade, wool, spices, timber, and imported goods from across Europe. Apprentices learn craft skills, regulate commerce, and taverns fill with conversation. Yet beneath this everyday vitality lies an unspoken awareness of royal authority reinforced by the tower's presence. Micro-stories unfold quietly. A baker kneads dough just meters away from a man counting his final days. A young guard newly assigned avoids looking directly at prisoners, unsure whether to feel pity or discipline. A servant pauses briefly at a barred window, hearing a faint carving against stone, then walks on, choosing not to notice. Religion, too, plays its role. The chapel offers both comfort and control. Prayers for forgiveness blend with sermons reinforcing divine order, reminding all that the monarch rules not only by law, but by God's will. Crime and punishment exist side by side with routine. Executions are rare within the tower itself, reserved for the highest status individuals, yet their memory lingers everywhere in scorch marks and whispered stories in the very stones. Here, life is not divided between the ordinary and the extraordinary. It is fused. Bread is baked, bells are rung, and somewhere quietly, a man waits. The tower does not rely on constant violence to assert its authority. It relies on ritual symbolism and memory. Religion plays a central role in this structure. The chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula is not merely a place of worship. It is where some of the most powerful figures in England are buried after execution. Faith here is intertwined with finality. A noble may pray for mercy in the same space where others have already been judged and laid to rest. Public execution, though often held outside the tower on Tower Hill, remains part of a carefully managed spectacle. It reinforces hierarchy. Common traitors die before crowds, while nobles are granted the privilege of private execution within the fortress. Even in death class, distinctions persist. This controlled visibility of punishment ensures that fear spreads efficiently, seen by many, experienced by few. Crime in this context is not merely legal wrongdoing, it is political deviation. Treason can mean rebellion, but it can also mean disagreement, ambition, or simply falling out of favor. The legal definitions are fluid because power itself is fluid. The tower becomes the physical endpoint of this ambiguity. Entertainment and royal display exist alongside this system. Royal processions pass nearby. Ceremonies unfold. The crown jewels are stored within these same walls, representing divine right and continuity. Visitors, dignitaries, ambassadors are shown curated versions of the tower where strength is emphasized and suffering is hidden. Micro-stories linger in the shadows. A priest whispers final rites to a trembling noble. A guard recounts years later the calm dignity of a condemned queen. A craftsman repairs a door that has closed on countless lives, never speaking of what he has witnessed. The genius of the system is its balance. It reveals just enough to instill fear, but conceals enough to maintain mystique. Crime is punished, but more importantly, it is defined by those in power. And the tower ensures that definition is never questioned. As dawn breaks once more over the Thames, the prisoner stands at his narrow window, watching light touch the pale walls of the White Tower. Nothing has changed, and that is precisely the point. The system does not need to evolve rapidly. Its strength lies in continuity. From the Norman conquest through the Plantagenet and Tudor eras, the Tower has remained a constant instrument of authority. Monarchs rise and fall, alliances shift, economies expand, and religions fracture. But the Tower endures. Its stones outlast policies, outlast individuals, outlast even dynasties. Historically, its impact is profound. It shaped the behavior of England's ruling class, embedding caution into governance. It influenced political culture where loyalty was performative and dissent carried existential risk. It contributed to the centralization of royal power, reinforcing the idea that authority must be visible, permanent, and unquestionable. The arithmetic is simple yet powerful. For every prisoner confined within thousands outside, adjusted their actions accordingly. The Tower's influence extended far beyond its walls. It governed decisions made in courts, in estates, in parliaments, not yet fully formed. Over time, its function evolved. It became less a place of frequent imprisonment and more a symbol, yet symbols can be more powerful than reality. Today, its gates may open to visitors, its chambers filled with history rather than fear. But the architecture still speaks. The stones remember the silence, the waiting, the slow erosion of identity. They remind us that power at its most efficient does not need constant enforcement. It needs permanent structure and belief. The lesson of the Tower is not confined to the past. Systems built on inevitability, on the quiet certainty of consequence, continue to shape societies today. The gates may stand open now, but they have never forgotten how to close.